Welcome to our short video, which outlines the correct processes and procedures involved when installing Fireblox cavity barrier. Please read the following disclaimer regarding the recommended installation process. For your peace of mind, Fireblox non-ventilated cavity barrier has been extensively tested in a variety of applications, holding UL EU third-party certification and supported by NBS source partner. Manufactured from plain stone mineral wool, Fireblox is a non-ventilated cavity barrier that can be used at the junction of compartment floors, compartment or party walls, and around openings. It provides fire resistance within external masonry wall cavities for up to 2 hours in both horizontal and vertical applications. The product is designed for use within cavities from 10 mm up to 600 mm. And the exact level of fire resistance performance will depend on the orientation of the Fireblox and the construction of the external walls. Tests include Fireblox cavity barrier within an SFS system, incorporating calcium silicate fibre cement board. Grayson GB Limited can supply Fireblox in either a full slab or as a factory-finished cut to suit your specific requirements. To cut the board on site, the following items are required: a tape measure, a sharp knife, a marker pen, and a handsaw. Measure the size of the cavity plus an additional 5 mm compression allowance. Mark the cutting line with a marker down the 1 meter length of the slab. Use a sharp knife to cut along the marked line to penetrate the foil, then use a handsaw to finish cutting the slab. For widths 15 mm to 80 mm, directly face fix the Fireblox using a Fireblox MP screw suitable for the substrate. Ensure the fixing is recessed by at least 5 mm to allow for the required compression. For widths over 80 mm, Fireblox brackets need to be used. Brackets must be folded to 90 degrees, either at the 65 mm mark for cavity barriers between 81 and 95 mm wide, or at the 160 mm mark for cavity barriers between 96 and 605 mm wide. The 160 mm spike will require cutting to size if used in barriers less than 175 mm wide to ensure the spike does not pierce through the face of the Fireblox and allows for the 5 mm compression. Fix 2 Fireblox brackets per linear meter to the substrate using a minimum of 1 relevant Fireblox screw per bracket. FBC for concrete, FBS for SFS, and FBB when fixing to a board. The brackets should be installed at a maximum of 250 mm from the end of the cavity barrier, with a maximum spacing between brackets of 500 mm. One Fireblox bracket can be used if the barrier is less than or equal to 500 mm in length. The vertical cavity barrier must be installed first against the inner substrate. Carefully push the Fireblox into place onto the bracket so it sits flush with the substrate, making sure there are no gaps. The horizontal Fireblox can now be installed against the inner substrate, using the same method as the vertical installation. Ensure the slabs are butt-jointed tightly with no gaps. When creating a corner, measure and cut the Fireblox to the required length to fill the remaining void. Using the bracket, insert the section into the void, ensuring the Fireblox is tightly butt-jointed. A suitable membrane is applied to the face of Fireblox cavity barrier to avoid thermal bridging caused by damp at the inner face of brickwork. In application, the membrane should be installed using a suitable width to overlap the Fireblox by a minimum of 25 mm either side and is compression fitted between the Fireblox and masonry. It's important to verify and regularly check the accuracy of the cavity width being formed, ensuring the 5 mm compression is in place. The Fireblox system can be installed in conjunction with masonry support brackets. Mark where the bracket meets the Fireblox and cut a notch, making the notch as small as possible. There must be a minimum of 28 mm from the top of the masonry support bracket to the top of the Fireblox. Thank you for taking the time to watch this Fireblox installation video. Visit our website to find out more about Grayson's award-winning range of cavity barriers, brickwork sundries and construction consumables. www.grayson-gb.com